And I said, I don't like how we're doing things. First of all, I don't want clients, I want partners. So let's see what we can do to change our process to help companies stand out. We have this flexibility of really telling the story and elevating their messaging. Where I see a lot of networks just rushing out going, sure, I'll take your money. Let me slap ads on my network. And I just think that's a mistake.
Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we explore the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules, growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here today to uncover how top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. Now, for those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands like yours with comprehensive hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. So go ahead and drop growth into the comments if you want to learn how to do that. Today on The Growth Switch, we're fortunate enough to have Lisa Laporte, the dynamic CEO of TWiT TV, a seasoned leader who has helped brands both big and small grow smarter and not louder by mastering niche media and authentic partnerships. Lisa, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Jules, thank you for having me. I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, of course. You know, honestly, the introduction we could have rambled on for 5 or 10 minutes with the number of amazing things that you've done in your career. So I tried to keep it brief, but let's just jump right into it. You know, you've done some pretty amazing things in media, and I would love to learn how you got started, and more about your passion in.
Well, how I got started is I bumped into this little podcast network called TWiT TV. And this was almost 18 years ago. And I was a consultant helping people with their, financial, needs and things like that. And one of my CPAs referred me to this little niche network. And after about 3 months, I fell in love with it. I'm like, wow, what is podcasting? Nobody knew what a podcast was back then. And we are a technology network. So we've been around for 20 years. We're one of the original podcast networks. So we were one of the first to start adding video. As everyone knows, podcasting started out audio, very similar to radio. And then we added video. And since then, we've had 3 studios overall. And last year we decided to become fully remote because we mastered it in the pandemic. But one thing I decided to do, and my background in full honesty is in finance, helping businesses grow, etc. I looked at our sales process and I didn't like it when I took over running this network. I'm like, what are we doing here? 50% of advertisers made a purchase based on an ad they heard on podcasts. And that's a Nielsen stat today. And that's about where we were, over a decade ago. And I said, I don't like how we're doing things. First of all, I don't want clients, I want partners. So let's see what we can do to change our process to help companies stand out. So first of all, we have a 95% male audience. I have spent 20 years to try to make that a little less. We're still 95% male, but we do reach IT decision makers and company decision makers because all we do is cover tech. So what I decided to do is we're not going to just take any brand that wants to appear on our network. We are going to highly curate who our partners are. So the first thing that I like to do on our network is that they have to have a product or a service that can benefit our audience. That's first and foremost to come to our network. But the second thing that we have to do is we heavily vet the brand too. Are they highly rated? Are they trustworthy? We ask these questions because we're doing host-read ads in the content of our shows. And by the way, if you know anything about podcasting, you can listen to NPR where people just read ads and they're not personally endorsed. They're not done by the host. They're usually producer read. Our first tier ads are host read. And that right there has trust established with the audience. So if you think about it, you're the host delivering the content to your audience. Well, when you go into an ad read, and we're explicit when we go into an ad read, we don't just launch into one. We automatically say, okay, and this show is sponsored by. So when the host is delivering that ad read to the audience, the parasocial relationship and the trust built between the host and their fans is automatically extended to the brands we bring to our audience. But the magic we do is our audience knows our upfront vetting process. We're extremely picky about the brands we partner with. Like I said, they have to be highly rated. They have to stand out. But more importantly, they have to have something that can benefit our audience. Now, we've helped startups and we've helped Fortune 500 companies, on our network grow depending on what their needs are. So I have been fine tuning this process for over a decade. I didn't just go, okay, we're going to change it and it's good to go. I'm always thinking about can I be a better partner? How can I help brands stand out more? What more can we be doing? So part of my responsibility besides overseeing sales is I help with marketing. I'm constantly looking for new platforms to put our content on. So we've been really lucky to continue to grow and add to our network as well as to help brands grow. I believe we have 8 unicorns that have been
Wow.
on our network, and
Yeah.
not just solely from partnering with us. Of course they had other campaigns, but that's something that I believe companies are falling short on. They get too one dimensional on their marketing, and they really should be taking a look around and doing more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some give and take there as well. It's not
Yes.
just about unicorns choosing you because they've made a good choice, which clearly they have, but it's also about vetting these brands and making sure that there's some synchronicity between the brands and the exposure and the media, right?
Absolutely. There's too many networks out there because I actually had my own agency for 7 years. In this entire time, I've been working here at my own company because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I can't help it. But I also saw an opportunity that the magic I brought to our network, I wanted to help other people grow too. And I actually represented several technology brands that wanted to go out and buy other networks because they were so successful with us. And what I found when I went out to ask, other networks what they're doing, they're like, oh, just tell us when you want to start, we'll tell you what shows, we'll put you on things. And to me, that's the wrong approach. It needs to be a match to the audience. It needs to make sense to who you're reaching. I mean, if you want to just get your brand name out there, you could totally do that. But how we do things differently, we spend so much upfront time before we sign a brand. We talk to them about their growth goals. I won't even send out my ad kit to anyone until we have a conversation. I will send them my audience metrics, an overview of our partnership process, and say, we start every partnership with a phone call. We want to know, can we help you? What are your growth goals? What are your needs? In addition, we do I call it a one sheet. So I've already vetted the brand. I've already done a deep dive. I have a full continuity team behind me. So I've already looked at what they are, what they're doing, what are their services, how are they rated? And if they're not highly rated, I'll still take the phone call because I'll be like, are you rolling out a new product? Are you improving your service? I want to have a conversation with a brand to see if I can even help them grow by bringing them to our network and then introducing them to our audience. So for us, it really comes down to that, where I see a lot of networks just rushing out going, sure, I'll take your money. Let me slap ads on my network. And I just think that's a mistake. What I want are people to come to us, and either we're helping them with a short campaign. Maybe they just want to get their brand out there. They've launched a new product, or maybe they're a tech company constantly rolling out products and services, and they want to have that continued partnership with a network like ours who's reaching the audience they want to talk to. So that's what we do. We actually spend this, I'd probably spend 20 hours on a client up front before we even send them an order or start talking about show selection or doing a deep dive into the process. And then once we sign a new brand, there's more work. So I can't, if a brand reaches out to me today and says, I want to get going in 1 week, nope, it's 2 to 4 weeks minimum after you sign the order and we agree on which shows we're going to put you on, because we have to get the talking points together. We have to go over the ad tech and the things you need to use to measure the success of a podcast campaign. So we actually educate brands, really help them on what they're doing. And then when we do have them drop their first ad on our network, our hosts take whatever time they want to deliver that introduction to their audience about that brand. And
Yeah.
we don't have a time limit on it. Sometimes our hosts take 2, 3 minutes. Sometimes they take 5, 6, 7. And that is because they want to be like, hey, look at these people. And we talk to them. That's another thing I see. I work with a lot of agencies, podcast agencies. They never let us talk to the brand. Now, if you partner with me direct, we have an onboarding call with our hosts before we drop a first ad. They get to meet and speak to that brand, and they bring on somebody that's tech savvy, because our hosts are all tech savvy. They're going to ask the poor marketing people questions they can't answer. So they always have to bring an engineer on to answer their questions. And then what's great is they drop that first ad. Not only do they know everything about the company, they know their, features and benefits, what their products and services are. They bring in testimonials. They talk about the conversation they had when they met the brand. They talk about what else they're coming out with. So our audience trusts us to do this upfront homework. And then when our ads go out there, the response is significantly higher. So we poll our audience every year, and we are at 88% of our fans have made a purchase based on an ad they heard on our network, when the Nielsen average is 50%. And it keeps going up year over year. I can't wait to get to 90%, because when I started this thing, we would check every year and it'd be like, oh, we're at 53%, 54%, 55%. I've been at 88 for a couple of years, and I'm like, how do I move that needle a little bit more? So I'm constantly looking at how we can improve what we do for the brands that are our partners that come on our network, and how we can help them succeed. And in turn, they keep my network going. So I always am looking for those relationships that we continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah. And in a saturated space, one of the things that I think that you're helping with is authenticity,
Yes.
helping these brands to tell authentic stories versus just slapping out marketing. Because I think that, people can smell marketing and they
Yes.
don't like it,
Yes.
So shifting that perspective to like, well, we're not necessarily just marketing. What we're doing is building a relationship, which is completely different.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we also then, like, our audience, because like I said, they know our process, they trust what we're sending to them. Because, I have had brands reach out to me with, products, and I would take a look at their ratings. They'd be 2.5 stars out of 5, on Amazon. So I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation. So I'm like, are you releasing a new product? Are you improving your product? Like, what are you doing? And I've had brands tell me, we're not doing any of that. We're just going to throw more marketing dollars at this product so we can sell what's on the shelves. And I'm like, bye. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
think about it. They trust our hosts to deliver those ad reads. Do you want to know what's going to happen if I sign a subpar brand or somebody with, not a quality service or not a quality product, and and we're going to talk about it? Oh, no, 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 no. So the trust that we have with our audience is they know that we're bringing them very sophisticated brands. They're highly rated. But what's great is we can talk about real time. So when a brand is direct, we get talking points that we put together. And I have a full time copywriter on my staff. So we're constantly because, like, here's an example. The marketing people are the last people at a security company to know what the next update is. Believe it or not, they forget to tell marketing. Engineers roll out new products all the time. My team goes to the blogs on every single direct partner's, websites every week, and we'll see new things. They've added this. We will update the ad copy and send it to them and tell them we're going to talk about it. And then they also understand that our hosts don't read ad copy. So if today there was a security breach and this company stood up and they were like, oh, we admitted there's a security breach, we fixed it right away, we can be talking about it in the ad that's dropping that day. We'll be like, oh yeah, and today we're doing an ad for, let me use one of my brands, Threat Locker. Well, today they had a security breach and they patched it within 20 minutes. They totally took care of it. Nothing got through. So we're able in our ads to be talking about how they've helped other brands, what they can do for you, and what's happening right now to show you how they stand out. So we never know. Like, sometimes, a fan may go, I like that story, I want to check them out for my needs. Or maybe it's a CISO talking about a brand that combined all their security elements that were all on-prem, fragmented. It's all in the cloud now. Maybe it's a testimonial from that CISO that's going to bring them in. Or maybe it's potentially an award, or they're faster, they're more cost effective, they are flexible, you can push things quicker. So we try to cover all of the amazing things that they're doing, the things, the services and products that they have, and show it to the audience. So we give them enough information for them to go, I think I want to check them out. And what we always recommend with brands is add the spoken word. So if you're only out there doing, digital ads, social media ads, banner ads, Reddit ads, etc., you know what you're missing? That trusted voice. So you see all these ads. Oh, but wait, I heard Lisa Laporte talk about this company. So to us, I feel like you have to tie it in. I actually, we do work with startups too. So I have some startups reach out to me, and they're a little bit longer to vet and to figure out how to help them. Because if you're trying to break into a space where huge tech companies have market share, we go to them and go, okay, how can we differentiate you? How can we help you stand out? How can we help you grow? And maybe they're starting with smaller companies, and if they want to go for bigger ones, great. But that is the magic of what we do for brands that come to us.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I think that that's not necessarily what everybody is looking for, but it's probably what they need. People aren't always looking for what they need if they just want to throw dollars at their marketing and just get something bland. And they're like, we just want this to do better. I think everybody wants it to do better, but they don't really know how. And I think what you're
Yes.
offering is the how, which
Yeah,
is
this is one avenue that people should look at. I mean, like I said, we do have some B2C products that appeal to men because 95% male audience, that works
right.
too. But we do very well in the B2B space. We have a lot of security companies. I believe when the pandemic hit, we jumped. I'd say half of our clients are, security type products, but we also have, like the IBMs, the Cisco systems, all the giant tech companies do come to us because we're talking to their people and we have this flexibility of really telling the story and elevating their messaging. So for brands to go out and just do traditional marketing, they should absolutely do that, but they should also look for the smaller networks like ours that curate brands and really help them stand out. And it should be part of their overall marketing campaign. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on with brand new CMOs, brand new marketing companies at giant cybersecurity companies. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to grow? I will ask some questions they don't even know how to answer. They're like, oh, I go, well, like, what are you looking to highlight? Is it a specific service or is it your full suite of products? Is this branding? Is it direct response? It's amazing, Jules, how many people are like, yeah, I don't know. I've been here 6 weeks. I was just told to try to find like places to market. And they're surprised because I realize that I bring the same level of questions that I would if I'm interviewing a company to go in and help when I was a consultant. So
Yeah.
I'm not interested in just getting money and wasting people's money. I really want to make it about how do we highlight them and feature them better, and they're not used to seeing this. And as somebody who went out and bought for brands, I didn't encounter how we do things anywhere else. So it's kind of shocking to me that people aren't investing more time in trying to understand brands before they just take their money and sign them for campaigns. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it might just come down to programming. Like, we've done this before and it doesn't work, but we know how to do it. So I think we'll do it again.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. And we
Yeah.
actually have some brands that come through agencies. I'll go to the agency and say, this ad copy is flat. It says nothing about what they do. I even offer to write agency ad copy for their brands.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, you have to read it verbatim. They don't want any changes. They never send us updated ad copy. It's stale. They don't implement the ad tech tracking that we recommend that everyone should be doing in podcasting. And then they complain and it's like, well, if you would let us do what we do for our direct clients, you'll be much happier, but they don't let us. So right now
Yeah.
70% of our business is direct, and I'm going to keep growing that because having direct access to a brand that gets it just works. And we do a lot of extras too. First of all, we simulcast on 8 platforms when we record our shows. So we have 13 shows and we have 6 that are fully public facing because we do have some in our club. So we simulcast on 8 platforms. We have 3 to 5,000 people watching us live because we record at the same time every week for every single one of our shows. So
Yeah.
we offer this and we do our ad reads live. So the host will do the ad read, but then after the show's over, we edit the show. And of course, we check the ad if anything was missed. We tighten it up before we publish the show. So the
Mhm.
really great thing for brands that sign with us is they don't pay for that live ad read. We do that. That's just a bonus for them. In addition,
Yeah.
because we sell out, I don't have that many shows. I don't want to worry about make goods. Gosh, elections, fires, this, that, like what's, wars, everything going on in the world. I never know when there might be some softness. So what do? I layer in make goods up front. So every brand that comes to our network will probably get 10 to 20, sometimes 30% over delivery, because if there's no softness, well, then you just got a bonus on that show. We're really careful about making sure we deliver everything we promise. We have a sponsor page. They're in our RSS feed. We put them on our individual show pages. And to even boost things, we send them their ad read as a courtesy commercial because we're video and we're audio. So every ad that drops, we can cut out just what we said about them. And we just say courtesy of our network. We send it to them and say, you can use this anywhere but paid media. And if you promote it on social, we will reshare it and say, hey, check out what our sponsor is doing. And then you have a trusted host telling you about everything. And then they can put that wherever they'd like.
Yeah.
So we're all about doing everything that they're paying for, but then going above and beyond and go, here's a few extras. And then every quarter, we always bonus our direct brands with a little something extra. And they love it. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, we're going to feature in our newsletter reaching 20,000 fans for free. and we just put a little mention in there. In addition, we have an ad-free club. So when the pandemic hit, we started adding more ad tech, and our fans are like, I don't want to be tracked. Fine. So we set up an ad-free club. You're not tracked in there. There's no pixel tracking in the ad-free club. So we'll even drop courtesy commercials in Discord so that those fans know who our advertisers are. And by the way, they requested it. They're like, oh, I like the ad-free content. I don't want to be tracked, but I need to know who the advertisers are because I buy all my products from you guys. Okay. So here you go. So we're always looking for ways to elevate our partners because, as I said, they keep my network going and we help them grow their business and I fill their pipelines and it just works out.
Yeah. I just think that story alone speaks volumes to what you do and how you're doing it. Because, yeah, if people are paying money for an ad free experience, but they actually want the ads because they trust you that much, then you've built an incredibly powerful dynamic and relationship between the hosts and the people who are consuming the content.
Absolutely. And I have partners that have been with me for 3, 5, 7 years. Some of my longest partners were with us over a decade before they sold. I have it's funny. Someone's like, oh, you guys can't be that great. I go, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, we're so wonderful. We're so great. Look at us. I'm just like, we have a, testimonial page. And honestly, I have a lot of people that come in and they put their toe in and they do a quarterly test. And then, sometimes like 3 or 4 weeks later, they're calling me going, what else have you got? Like, this is amazing. I didn't know you guys did. And so I get it, because the reality is podcasting is blown up. It's everywhere. Everybody has a podcast these days. As you know, you guys started one.
Yeah.
So we always want to make sure that, people understand we're a journalistic entity. All of our hosts are broadcast journalists, with the exception of a few, because we have a few experts in their fields that we bring on. So that makes sense. And we're extremely picky about brands we work with. We don't do sponsored content. We thought about it, maybe we'll do a show and we'll tell everyone it's definitely sponsored, because some brands really want to be interviewed. They want to have something like that. So, we've rolled in sound bites in our ads and stuff like that. But for the most part, we've kept it really traditional that our hosts will do the ad reads because they're journalists, and we were very clear when we do a break, and we just don't do that many ads. So our shows are not short. Some are, well, we have a couple, like in our club, we have short format shows, but our long format shows, our 2 biggest shows are 2 hours long, and we only allow 5 advertisers on interstitial ads in it. If you go to other podcast networks, like every 15, 20 minutes, they're dropping 2 to 3 dynamic ad insertion ads. And it's like, that's not what we want to do. And we still have that arm, because we do have some people that are like, I need a geo target because we're a global network. And I'm like, well, I work with a partner and they do offer dynamic ad insertion on our unsold audio inventory. So that option is available, but I always recommend people, if you're going to do that, that's great. But I still recommend doing a few of our first tier host read ads, just because it will give you more. And to me, then back it up with dynamic ad insertion for geo targeting, if that's what you want to do. And I always tell them, have our host do those ad reads. Still way better than a producer read ad. So that would be my best tip to anyone. If you're ever going to go out to the podcast market, make sure it's a host read ad. It's just will be, because, if you're listening to a show on a podcast and then all of a sudden an ad jumps in, you're going to listen a little closer when it's a host doing the ad, as, some producer jumping in. And if you can get a personal endorsement, even better.
Yeah, there's no break in continuity. And I think that similar to watching a television show that's very interesting and exciting, and then suddenly there's that break in continuity, and then you've lost them. They're going to run off. They're going to go to the bathroom. They're going to get a snack. And when the host reads that ad, there's no break in continuity. They're still hooked. Right. They're still listening.
Yeah.
So how do people work with you? How do people apply to get one of these coveted spots?
Pretty easy. We have an advertise page. So they can either email me direct, Lisa@twit.tv, because I oversee all the direct partnerships. I do have one person that helps me with the sales, but honestly, they talk to me. I have curated this process, so they always start with me. I do have a full continuity team behind me, so it's not like they're only going to be working with me, but I'm the one who takes that initial call, just because I've been doing this for 40 years, not necessarily this, but I've been helping brands grow for a very long time. That's been my whole professional career. So they can reach out to me or advertise at twit.tv. And, I tend to send them our partnership process overview so people understand, we have conversations. I then take it to my team to make sure that they're okay with it. We totally vet them. And then we start talking about what their goals are, what they want to do. And then I introduce them to the shows and I make recommendations recommendations based on what the show is, the reach based on past performance. Because with my direct partners, they share data with me. So I'm under NDA with all my partners, but I can pull from, hey, this worked really well for this security company. This worked well over here. So I can aggregate that data. So we start with that conversation and we go over all the tools it takes to measure podcast campaigns successfully. And when people don't apply all the tools, it's hard because then they're going to miss if they want to track at a high level. We recommend applying them all. And then we go, okay, here's the show ideas. Send out, we send out an IO that is a proposal that converts into an order. It's just one page. Our terms are straightforward. And then we go from there. So that's how it starts with us. I've had brands reach out and they're like, I want to start tomorrow. I don't want to, just picture. I'm like, no. Put the brakes on. We have to have a conversation. So I have found when I step away from my process because I really want to work with someone, it's a mistake. So our process is longer, and we're really just looking for brands that understand what we do and how we can help them stand out. And they have to be doing more than just being on our network. I've had startups reach out to me and go, okay, I have enough for your quarterly minimum. Let's go. And I'm like, wait, what else are you doing? Because that's part of the conversation. I want to know what they've done. What are they doing now? What products are rolling out? So I tend to sign an NDA right up front with brands so I can help, them with products that are rolling out that of course they don't want the public to know about yet. And we can help them pick the right show selection when I know what they're trying to do. So that's really how we start. People reach out to us. We set up a meeting, 15 minutes, half an hour, and just start that process to just get to know each other and try to figure out what they're trying to do. And then I try to help them get there.
Yeah. And that sounds very comprehensive and holistic, almost like an alternative medicine approach. So, like, we're going to figure out what the core issue is and fix that versus take this antibiotic and get out of my office because I'm busy, which is the typical
and like I
approach.
said, having represented brands for 7 years, that's mostly what I encountered. We don't want to talk to you. Just tell us what you want and when you want to start, and we'll tell you what'll make sense. And I'm like, well, wait, but I have questions like, have these shows worked for, like, I want to have a conversation and understand what I'm getting into before I send $50,000 to you. So that's what we
Understandably.
do. And we do work with agencies because they do bring us some large brands. And I prefer the agencies that understand what it takes. I actually work with like 2 out of hundreds that are amazing that get it. So if I work with a direct brand that's getting so big that they're like, okay, I can't do all this in-house anymore. I need an agency. I have a few people I can refer to if they want to go that route. But a lot of people prefer to, I honestly would recommend that brands have the right people in their marketing department and curate their marketing streams better. I mean, I get IBMs and huge, Global 100, Fortune 500 companies probably need to use some agencies, but if brands can bring it in-house, I think they would be better off testing things more direct, but really asking questions before you just sign things. I understand everything's technology, fill out a form online, do all this. We're moving faster and faster. But if you just spend a few minutes talking to somebody, you might actually have a better result in your marketing campaign.
Yeah, yeah. And for all of our viewers, for all of our listeners, you're going to find those links right down below in the show notes. And Lisa, I do have one more question for you.
Sure.
And, that is, we work with a lot of cybersecurity companies at RS Media. And, to me, cybersecurity is mission critical. And this is not just my opinion. This is based on the fact that if a threat actor, ends up taking action, a small to medium sized business could easily go under, end up with
Oh,
lawsuits.
absolutely.
And so it should be an easy sell. Like, I feel like any CEO, any business should be looking for cybersecurity. It should be an easy sell. However, I also feel like a lot of cybersecurity companies are struggling with marketing. So a lot of these really amazing cybersecurity companies with brilliant founders and all kinds of tech genius behind it, all kinds of really good initiatives are not connecting necessarily to the right audience in order to make this easy sale. As a story-based person, what do you think they are missing when they're trying to make that sale?
Probably exactly what you just said, telling their story, letting them know how they can help brands. I think they're lacking that communication to companies where they should be telling them, this is how we can help you, and it can be cost effective, and we can start with smaller companies, maybe focusing on different industries. I think they're lacking that story about how they can get in there and help you. We have a couple of brands that work with all kinds of platforms. So I think they need to make sure they're telling all these companies, we can work with your existing tech stack to make it more secure. So they're failing to reach the right person in that company because they're not doing the right advertising, marketing, sales. They're not reaching the right audiences that they need to talk to. But I know a lot of, I know a lot of small and medium sized businesses, because we reach those too, that are like, oh my gosh, there's all these tech companies out there. Which one do I pick? How does this all work? They're just confused. There's so much out there. So this is where adding in the spoken word, getting a few pieces of this is what we can offer. We can help small companies. We can go on their tech stack. Like being very specific into an industry and how they can help that industry would probably be the best way to go. So instead of trying to be a wide net to grab everyone, I think they should be more niche and specific as to how they can help a healthcare industry, a finance industry, a small to medium sized business up to 100 people. I believe they need to start curating their messages directly to specific industries so that they can understand how they can better serve that particular company. And another thing they could do is make sure that they work with MSPs, because a lot of small to medium sized businesses, or MSSPs, depending on if they have some managed service providers are the security service providers too. So they should also be finding ways to curate and reach the MSSPs and the MSPs that can also go into these small to medium sized businesses and buy like larger suites and really help them protect their security. So I believe curating relationships in that direction, as well as curating content and marketing sales materials directly to niche companies, so they show them, don't be afraid, it's not that hard. But if they're really working with MSSPs too, I think that would be a brilliant way to reach the small to medium sized business, because they can't afford to have someone in house, so they're working with an MSSP for that reason. So I think that would be my best advice for cybersecurity companies, making sure you have, a niche targeted audience, as well as working with those consultants that are helping these smaller companies that can't afford to have somebody in house. That would be my recommendation. And just make sure you advertise in different ways too. Don't just do banner ad. I mean, you see a cybersecurity company on Reddit. What does that even mean? Like, I think you have to have better messaging and curating it more, but I believe those two avenues would be a great way to start. Well, thank you for having me, Jules, and happy to help any brands. If they have any questions, they can reach out to me as well.